The revolution is here. A movement of people free to live, work, and choose. We won't tell you what to think. We just demand that you think for yourself. This is Kibbe on Liberty. Lily, good to see you again.
Well, good to be here. This is a very cool place here.
So you're going to do Tim Pool tonight, and you've done his show before, right?
Yes, I have done his show twice, and I have lots of supporters from his subscribers. And I even inspire some young people who are Democrats right now are going to vote for me in New Hampshire. I think that's just awesome because I really love young people. That's my whole point of message is, you know.
And you're going to wear like a black beanie tonight on the show.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm running for office.
So we were talking before about, and you just referred to how much time you spend speaking to young people, particularly high school students, about your personal experience surviving Mao's Cultural Revolution in China. Tell me more about that, and why do you spend so much time doing that?
Well, after I woke up in this country, which is 20 years later since I come to United States, I see the bad trend that's happening in the country, and our young people want to have more socialist policies, want to rely on government for lots of free stuff, and even worship communist leaders. That really scares me. So I said, well, young people don't know the horror of communism. So I knock on the door, so like, can I go educate young people? And then I approached to a victim of a Communism Memorial Foundation. They become my sponsor. So I'm on their speakers bureau for past 5 years to go to colleges and high school, even middle schools to tell my stories. And the kids responded so, positive. Then every time after I finished, they want to ask me questions. They want to take pictures with me. And they feel so lucky to be born American here. They say, oh, I don't take my freedom for granted. So I guess I have not done enough because look at the country today. In my eyes, the United States has been in crisis, and the worst I have never seen since I come here.
Yeah. I mean, do you ever get the standard response was, well, Mao was an authoritarian, that wasn't real communism?
Mm-hmm. How many people they are willing to see to die? 100 million people died under communism in past 100 years. So how much more experiment do they want?
Yeah.
Maybe they should experiment on themselves by moving to those countries.
The problem that the death toll of communism is such a big number. I think people have a hard time even comprehending what it means. So when you tell a personal story, I think that's the only way to connect with young people, because the numbers and the statistics and even like the horrific stories you will hear about the brutality of how Mao treated people, it's almost unbelievable unless you can say, I was there, I saw it.
Our kids don't know. When I mentioned the numbers, their eyes were huge. 100 million people died. Estimated 40 million Chinese just starved to death under Mao. And another 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. Our young people did not know until I go to their school and tell them face to face. And some teachers even don't know. Make me wonder, how are they training our teachers in the teachers' colleges? Because they probably spend 30 minutes on China, and then they don't know those horrible stories. We don't even have a very good movie or museum about the Cultural Revolution. People know a lot more about Nazis from our kids' perspective. They know how bad the Nazis are. But when I say, do you know more people died under communism in China than under Nazis? They were just shocked.
Yeah. The Chinese government did a tremendous job sort of hijacking like the New York Times and other places that just refused to tell that story until about Tiananmen Square. Some of that started leaking out. And so the history is actually new, right, for non-Chinese Is that right?
Well, that of course, Tiananmen Square tank man on CNN, and I think exposed the lots of true colors of Communist Party. And when Deng Xiaoping became new leader, when Mao died, 1976, I was 12 years old. China's economy was about total collapse. So Deng Xiaoping started the economic reform. That's how China's got richer, and just by practice a little bit free market capitalism, decentralization of the Beijing control. And so lots of young people, and even include this country, they don't know the history. And they say China got richer, they buy lots of products from China, they have even from lots of business investors, they have this idealistic I call that kind of like delusion about China, maybe because of they tasted the prosperity of a little bit free market, they will become a democratic country. But China did not become democratic country. They got worse under the new madman I call Chairman Xi, right? It's not elected. I don't even want to call him President Xi. And he wants to take China back to kind of like a Mao's time where party has total control, and he's put a tremendous pressure on private industries, private business owners, including billionaires like Jack Ma, dare to criticize Communist Party regulators, and then you retire from your own company. It's people don't understand the economic development under totally unreliable dictatorship. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And you got to have some kind of political system too. I think economic freedom and political freedom should go together, because how do you feel if you're a billionaire in China, you have all that money, but you cannot allowed to criticize government?
So Xi has said about Tiananmen Square, and this I think is part of understanding his sort of brutal technocratic authoritarianism. It's not really like the old communism. It's slightly different.
More like a fascism.
Yeah, it's more like just fascism, but the similarity is the same. And he said this about Tiananmen Square, that the brutal slaughter of all those students was necessary for the health of the collective, the nation, right?
Yes.
And that's I think about that in the context. We were talking about Shanghai, which has now been locked down for months, I think several months. And the brutality with which the Chinese government is pursuing a zero COVID policy, it's all about their reputation, because lockdowns were the Chinese model. They originated in China, and way too many Western countries embraced them, including the United States. But now the credibility of that entire approach is, well, I think it's shot, but they apparently think that if they can lock down and eliminate the virus, no matter the human cost. That seems to me what's going on. Like, he's willing to starve the people of Shanghai. Is that too strong?
I'm not surprised anything they do, because the true nature of dictators and communist-like and fascist leaders, they all like that. They do not value human life. They do not respect any human dignity. I went to college in Shanghai, worked there for 3 years. I was in Shanghai for 7 years. It breaks my heart to watch every night what my friends are posting on WeChat. I couldn't say anything, but I watch their videos, they're posting, and they have money. They cannot buy food. How can you rely on government for delivering food to 26 million people?
Yeah.
And so there's some people are, starving to death, especially if you don't have a legal residence permit in Shanghai to live there. You don't get delivered food. And they can be migrant workers. They're very vulnerable population. And also old people live by themselves. If they need a medicine, you need to access hospital care. The hospitals are not opening to receive people, who need emergency care. And you have to get tested before you go to the ICU. But sometimes people just dying waiting.
Yeah.
Because it takes 4 hours to have a test results back. It's not based on science. So it's like a paranoia. She wants to show the world his iron fist works. He promised the world we're going to have zero COVID. How could you have a zero COVID, declare war on a virus? or you might change it to something else. But he wants to show the world his approach works, and he doesn't care about human life. Actually, in fact, 45 cities today, not just Shanghai, 45 cities, about 380 million people are under lockdown.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about them.
Yeah.
I have been calling out the free world to say we need to come out to condemn CCP's brutality and inhuman lockdown against their own people. We condemn all dictators, right? Why can't we condemn, CCP right now?
So we're what you're saying is we're seeing the violence and brutality in Shanghai because it's the wealthiest city in China, but it's happening all over the place in China.
Yes, it's like 1/4 of China population. It's nuts. It's madness. You have a few cases in your city, then they're going to shut down a whole bunch of people. And they take you out of your homes to go to quarantine camps, include college students who have no symptoms. And then there's, of course, when you give government so much more power, then they can do lots of abuses, right?
Yeah.
Like I read this girl living alone was, raped and then killed by the white guard. The people who dress up in all white now, like police or whatever government, people. And they do lots of crimes. And nobody cannot even report them. It's lots of stuff gets censored. I saw lots of videos. I want to go there, click on and watch it. Said, this, violates our regulation. So I cannot even see it. I don't know how many people died under this lockdown.
So you called it the White Guard, and that's a reference to the Red Guard from the Cultural Revolution, and it was the students. Yeah,
younger people who believe in regime. Another thing is similar to Mao's Cultural Revolution, that she is passing out little red books of his. Instead of Mao's little red books, he's passing out his Chairman Xi's thoughts for people to study all over China. Hey, what do you do when you get locked down? Study Xi's thoughts.
Yeah.
And everywhere, people are studying. And so you can get a better social credit score and get a promotion. And people, my friends, some of them, they're my generation, they know, wow, cultural revolution is happening in China again, 2.0.
Yeah.
History repeating itself because we just have let them to control all the narratives, all the press, all the social media, and condition all the younger generation who even don't know Tiananmen Square massacre happened, and they're supporting the regime because their life is pretty comfortable after economic reform. And this is a wake-up call for lots of Chinese, like it's like what's happening?
Yeah.
And people are committing suicide, especially young people. They don't get it. It's like, what is my meaning of my life? I cannot eat. I'm hungry, and I cannot go out get fresh air, and I'm socially isolated. No family support. This shows them jump out of buildings. So sad to see.
You said you called it the Cultural Revolution 2.0, but in other ways, the lockdowns in Shanghai and the failure of the government to sort of take over the production and distribution of food reminds me of the Great Leap Forward, and the utter failure of the government to replace the decentralized process of people producing food and producing other things that they need and somehow distributing them, because there is food in Shanghai. It's just rotten.
Rotten.
On the outskirts of the city.
Distribution broke down, yes.
Because they eliminated the distribution of people just solving problems, and now they want it centralized, presumably by the guys in the white hazmat suits. And so, like, it's not that there's not food, it's that the government won't let people get food.
There's a total disconnect. You see farmers are begging somebody come to the farmland to, get the vegetables out here. They're sitting there rotten, where people inside the cities are hungry. And but then the government block all the roads, and you have to get tested, and you cannot get into the Shanghai. So that's what I'm saying. When you don't have a rule of law, when all the government officials are not elected by people, they don't care. So you get a top-down policy from Beijing to say zero COVID lockdown, block everything. They even put electrical wires and at the people's staircases so they cannot get out. And you saw people stick their head out to get a haircut from an iron gate. Just a little tiny space, they could barely stick their head out to get a haircut. It's total insaneness. And so how could you rely on men to, basically serve you, give you food, and tell you when you can get out, how much medicine you should get, and the hospitals were not open. It's like all I'm saying is that you cannot rely on any man, even though, some men are good, some leaders are great. No, what if one time you get a madman sociopath controlling your entire country, controlling your life, just like a Mao, just like a Xi today?
Yeah.
Then you're screwed, You can die, you can get killed, you can lose your loved ones. That's why we cannot have a system built on relying on man, rely on government. And I just don't like that system at all. I want really, the U.S. government to be truly small and limited.
Yeah. You've said time and again that the reason you're speaking up is that you fled China because you didn't want to live in a world where people didn't matter. And you see America turning into China. What did you think when our governors like Cuomo and certainly federal government leaders like Anthony Fauci were praising the Chinese model of COVID mitigation, all of the social tracing, all of the violence and the brutality? Did it feel like it was like a flashback or something?
Yes, I couldn't sleep well last 2 years ever since COVID lockdown happened. And also remember 2020, not just lockdowns, canceling people's rights, closed schools and churches, small business. You also saw riots, right? In the name of anti-racism, you saw country, big blue cities were burning, and people were committing crimes on the street and looting. And all the people hold the face up, like our young people, like red guards. And this symbol, it's like the communist,
Yeah.
And then they were chanting, and they want the communist revolution, and they want the equity. Those all like communist terms. I was like having PTSD. I will literally wake up in the middle of night. Mm-hmm. It's like I couldn't sleep. It's like, what's happening in America? And I will not be surprised China locked down their entire citizens and canceling their rights. I never expected to see that in my new country. It's like, what's going on here? Why our leaders want to take out of Communist Party's playbook in terms of terms, in terms of the tactics, and in terms of the the methods, the propaganda, they canceling people also on social media and media. And media is one lopsided to all support this kind of draconian measure of lockdowns. Otherwise, if you don't want to comply, you are the enemy. You have blood on your hands. Yeah. If try not to wear a mask, try not to take vaccine, for your job, you get cancer, you lose your career. All this stuff is just like just make me terrified. It's like, what's going on? And I know this United States has been going down the path like that for a long time. That's why I was going around speaking, but it just got worse and worse. I feel like now I need to do more for my new country.
And you talked about this last time we were together. Using critical race theory and intersectionality and dividing people based on their inherent differences, like where they're from, the color of their skin, their sexual preferences. That's right out of the Cultural Revolution playbook. Keep people divided and fighting with each other.
Well, Karl Marx already has a series called Oppressor versus Oppressed, right? He was talking about economical class. And Mao used the same theory to do his Cultural Revolution to divide the people, 5 black classes under oppressors group and 5 red classes under oppressed groups. And now you see what's going on in this country. There are lots of subgroups under oppressor versus oppressed, but I think some of those people, communist-like people, they know the weak spot of American history is slavery. Even though we had a civil rights movement, America has come a long way, and we're trying to judge people based on their individual character, not based on their skin. But there are some people use this to divide the citizens, and I have seen so much, division in the past 2 years, and people fight each other, neighbors, and report on each other, families, and don't talk to each other anymore. It really reminds me under Cultural Revolution, where kids were turned over their parents, grandparents, to the Red Guards, and then their family die of torture. They live with that guilt all their lives, and then you see the country bloody, mobbing culture dominated the street. And no rule of law, people were afraid. And I was a red child, luckily, and my family, did not go through struggle sessions, get shots, but some of my friends did. And I just remember that. Think about my childhood memory started. So seeing a red guard in the military trucks with soldiers to stand behind some black class people and escort them to the public execution site to get shot.
Yeah.
That's my childhood memory. As a peak of Cultural Revolution, I was like 4 years old. That's all I remember. And the crazy red guards were saying red songs, and they truly feel like they were right. They were going to answer Mao's call to go eliminate your political enemies. It's all Chinese, so there's no race, right? But it's class struggle. It's all divided by, what kind of families you were born with. So you're guilty if you families who own land and were capitalists and own factories and stuff like that. And so all the peasants, all the workers who supported Mao's communism, but they did not end well either. They were sent to countryside. Red Guards were sent to countryside for 10 years, like my uncle's generation. Red Guards, very sad. And also 40 million peasants who supported communism, supported Mao, and starving to death. Do our kids know the history? If they knew it, they better be careful what they're asking for today. Communist revolution, you'll be surrounded with bus, and I don't want to see history repeating itself.
So you've been telling these stories for at least a decade. I think I met you maybe 2010, something like that.
Yes, I've been consistent since I woke up in this country 2008. So I've been consistent.
Yeah.
And I've been more and more scared.
Yeah. So you've always been a political activist, but you've decided to run for Congress. Why are you running for Congress?
Well, I have been speaking around, I have been educating youth, but the country got worse and worse. How I'm going to get my warnings and the messages to the entire country, even to the entire free world, even speak for the people who have no voices, who are under lockdown. I feel this is my duty. As an American citizen, we still live in a free country. Even though I got threatened, I have trolls, I have people attack me, discredit me, even threaten me, dare not to go back to China. Since 2019, I could not go home to visit my family and friends inside of China. But somebody has to do what is right. I have a unique message. I have unique voices and unique stories. And lots of Chinese immigrants like me are behind me. They know what I'm talking about. But I have the language ability, I have the personality and the political knowledge to do this. If I don't, I'm going to hide myself behind the fear. I'm going to keep my head in the sand and see America get destroyed by the fascists, communist-like people, whatever you call them, who want to rule over us. I don't think I can die in peace. I have 3 children who were born in this country. What kind of country they're going to live in? How about their American dream? I am living American dream already. I came here 34 years ago with nothing. I have 3 home business. I can comfortably retire, travel around the world. But where I watching American being destroyed and free world be destroyed, I just cannot live with my conscience to be quiet for my safety. Safety, like death is not the worst evil. That's why New Hampshire has a motto called "Live Free or Die." I truly love that. That's why I moved to New Hampshire. I'm not gonna watch our liberty, our country to be destroyed.
So New Hampshire has become, it's called the Free State, but I've noticed in rankings, I think Cato and other places that rank the quality of life and the size of government and the level of freedom in the states, New Hampshire has really transformed in the last...
Number one right now, I'm proud to say.
Yeah.
We have lots of work to do, but it's still number one right now. Yeah, I love New Hampshire, and people ask me, why did you move to New Hampshire? Not many Chinese there. I say, I'm not a part of identity politics group. I go where maximum freedom is. I don't go where maximum Chinese are. You'd be China right now. It's like, that's what I left. Mm-hmm. I'm always chasing a freedom. And my home is where maximum freedom is and maximum personal liberties are. Of course, we got our own battles to fight in New Hampshire, but we have lots of people like me and also lots of people who were grew up in New Hampshire. They truly believe in live free or die. My town where, I don't know if you're, knowledgeable about this, we had a Pine Tree Riot, 250th anniversary. Back in April, we celebrated. That happened before the Boston Tea Party movement. So I moved into a very liberty-oriented, revolutionary town. I'm so proud to be the resident of there.
So you're bragging on New Hampshire as the real birthplace of American freedom, and not Boston.
Well, because of that Pine Tree Riot happened in my town of Ware before Boston Tea Party. I'm proud of that.
So I saw some polling. A pollster had analyzed some 10 states, not New Hampshire, but 10 states where there were primary votes over the past couple weeks, I guess. And Republican turnout is way up. In 9 out of these 10 states, the one place where more Democrats showed up compared to 2018 was Oregon. And maybe Oregon's just monolithic now in its democratic leanings. So there's people are frustrated. People are showing up, and my sense is that lockdowns and inflation and the way that the teachers' unions didn't let kids go to school, all of these basic quality of life issues seem to be driving a political revolution. What issues do you think are most important as a candidate?
Well, according to survey, that the number one issue that the Granite Staters are very concerned with is actually economy, inflation, gas prices, and hello, Katie. And the thing is, so
By the way, his name is Reardon. So he's an objectivist cat. He's a big.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a big fan of Ayn Rand, and he may have issues with respecting property
and
rights.
I read the Activism. That's one of the books kind of wake me up in this country to realize, there's a lot more philosophy out there besides I was told just believe government as solutions. And I think moderate Democrats, independents, might tend to think about what's going on in this country, and they're kind of waking up because they're hurting. Think about inflation, gas prices, and all that. Who got hurt most is working families, and who have to pay bills, who have to drive to work.
Yeah, it's a tax on working people.
Yeah, inflation is just the tax increase without legislation. But the Democrat leadership, they have no solutions, and they're blaming on pandemic, war, and or even corporations. Like Biden said, they need to pay more taxes. Like, I don't know. Do you think our politicians are totally economically illiterate? They need to study economics 101, or they're just lying and trying to get their base supporters still support their just like insane policies. They're still trying to print more money. And
I think it's both. I think there's obviously so much economic illiteracy in government, but these policies are self-serving because inflation, they've spent trillions of dollars, and I'm talking federal, trillions of dollars over the last 2 years that they didn't have. They couldn't borrow, so they just created it out of thin air. And that's not just a tax on working people. It's a wealth and power transfer back to insiders, including the political class. So, like, I might sound like Mao here, but the rich are getting richer, the laptop class and the political class, because the distribution of that money doesn't really go to people. It goes to people in power.
At the same time, lots of those Democrats always say, oh, we need to tax big corporation, rich people. We are for the working class. No, you are not. Your policies are hurting the working poor and working families. And your policies, actually think about how many billions of dollars of that, like a COVID stimulus money were fraud. PPE,
Right.
Did you watch like a Bill Maher talk about $400 billion? And don't know where they went.
Yeah.
Went to the fraudulent places and people. Yeah, when you're trying to just print money out of thin air, who has respect for their money, right? And you get all the, criminals coming to say, hey, free money available and fast and easy. And then they get, millions of dollars. It's just, I do not think government politicians are the very good guardians of taxpayers' money. And they don't care about the consequences. If they can promise you free stuff, you get them elected. I'm hoping their voters are waking up to say it's not working out for us. I trust you, believe you, and vote for you. Here's what I got. And we're going to continue to have supply issues because China locked down, the war, and also the regulations in this country. If you want to be competitive, the government should think about practice more free market approaches instead of more and more government control. And you have this administrative state called unelected bureaucrats who control federal agencies, constantly pass regulations, interfere with the free market, interfere with the private business, and make everything very expensive. That's why they push lots of companies to go to overseas, right? If you just cut regulations and make everything here competitive, then you have an incentive to come back here to create jobs.
Yeah.
But their policies just have been total disasters so far.
So what do you think the people in your district in New Hampshire think about vaccine mandates and being required, as the Biden administration did, being required to have a vaccine in order to keep your job? Where are they? Because I know people have different opinions about this, and some people think it's a good thing to force other people to get vaccinated.
I have not seen survey like that, and I do believe lots of people in New Hampshire, the fundamental goodness of them, and if they truly understand that the people's natural rights and the proper rule of government, and it's up to you to decide if you want to take a vaccine or not, and it's up to parents to decide for their children when it comes to medical decisions like that. Personally, I'm totally against a mandate, vaccine passport, vaccine mandate in the name of health and the public safety. I heard them all in China. That's what they used to get you.
That's the social credit system in China.
Right. They make you live in fear. They make you worry about your safety. So then they push down mandate on you. But lots of people didn't understand. Government mandate's not like you have a chance to choose. No. Mandate means enforcement by law, by guns, by government powers. If you do not comply, you will get a heavy fine. If you don't pay fine, your business will get shut down. You might get locked up. Try not to pay income tax, right? You can go to jail. So people got to understand the government mandate is enforced by government force. And don't you think that's not the American way? American one is individual freedom to choose. And I never had that choice. I never had that freedom in China. That's why I'm trying to tell people to connect the dots here.
Yeah.
Now you see why I'm talking about America becoming China, because so much endless government control and the mandates. And it's like we are not human beings. We're not entitled to choose. Or we are just not smart enough even to choose. We need to rely on some supreme leaders or elected politicians, unelected bureaucrats like CDC to tell us, they flip-flop so many times during the COVID. They have no credibility to me anymore. I mean, I'm just talking about me as a immigrant who, live in China for 24 years. My perspective, those people have no credibility to me.
I haven't read it yet, so I won't say anything specific about it, but there's an effort by the World Health Organization to codify the policies of lockdowns and vaccine mandates under some health treaty. Have you heard about this yet?
I heard. What kind of authority do they have? I mean, are they in the U.S. Constitution? They're going to tell me what the mandates I should subject to United Nations? China is part of United Nations Security Council and even part of the Human Rights Council member. You think I'm going to subject to those? It's no. I don't think Americans will really, buy into that. They have no authority. They have no more authority, no legal authority. So that's why individual citizens in our country, sometimes you just have to start to revolt and push back and speak up. And all I'm saying that we have Second Amendment, but right now we still have a relatively free speech and free ideas and thoughts and ballot box every year in your local elections. There are lots of other ways you can get involved or push back now, because I'm telling people, doesn't matter how afraid you are, how much you worry about your job, your career, your business, your children. If communists gain control, globalists gain control, they're talking about of us, you know what, you're going to lose everything anyway, very fast.
Yeah.
So it's better we just start to, push back now and fight for our children.
You talk a lot also about the Constitution. You call yourself a constitutionalist. Why don't Americans know about the Constitution? I'm not sure young Americans are taught things about the Bill of Rights and these fundamental principles that make America special.
Well, NEA wants to push critical race there in 14,000 school districts. Are they pushing to teach civics, Constitution, evils of communism? Not much. That's why our kids, you send your kids to college as a young man at 18, come home 22, look like Karl Marx. and so people start to ask questions what happened last 2 years when they realize teachers' unions and their policies actually are very cultural Marxist, and they do not think parents have rights to control kids' education, curriculum, and even decide on the mask mandate and vaccine mandate. In California, still pushing for vaccine mandate for the kids. They are the lowest risk group. And why are they still pushing for emergency authorization use of those vaccines? I just don't get it. What is the emergency now? We do have an emergency crisis situation in our southern border right now. And also supply chains, inflation. And I think that the parents are waking up. You say you are talking about red wave. People start to vote for Republican. I have seen some Democrats on Twitter saying, first time in my life, for the Virginia, governor, she said she voted Republican cross-board. She said Democrats will shut down my kids' schools for a year, did not get my single vote. Yeah. I even said, hey, welcome to Republican Party. And of course, we have two-party system, Republican parties, and, you have good people there, and then you have some rhinos there, they always get to me. And so it's really up to individual people to vote in the primary. So you vote for the people. Somebody like me who is not career politician, who is total outsider, who really wants to respect people's natural rights and pre-exist before any laws, before any government. And because I just tell people, I speak the truth, and I represent the people. I truly believe my job is to be servant of people, and I promise tell you the truth. And I will not sell out. And I'm somebody who's grateful living American dream. I don't need to go to Washington. I need this job, and I'm going to work with lobbyists on their bills. I just want to keep our country as a free country for my children. That's my intention. I have skin in the game. And I want to represent regular people because I feel connected with regular working class people because I was born into illiterate workers' family, and we were told to say thank you, Chairman Mao, thank you, party, to save China, or we were starving. So I don't buy that anymore. I think that you have to look at who really represents the common people and not special interests, not the super rich, and let the free market competition offer you best products and best services at the competitive prices, and you make the choice. I always respect people. Give the power back to the people to make choices at their individual level. It's the best way.
Are there any elected officials today that you sort of identify with respect as being the right form of liberty Republican that you fashion yourself as?
I always like Thomas Massey, Senator Rand Paul, and also Chip Roy. I mean, I will join Massey in the House, because we both feel strongly that Department of Education is really doesn't need to exist. Reagan talked about getting rid of that a long time ago. It still exists. And education really should be a local issue, and so parents have more control. And so they can even decide what curriculum they want. That's why local elections are important, and school boards. And there are lots of issues. Just give back to states. You don't need keep the federal government, super big and intrusive, and they're the one who can print money. Remember, state have to balance budget. That's why the state turned to government in Washington, gave me some more free money, from not free anyways, come with the strings attached. So I like to say federal government be more limited and be more fiscally responsible, conservative. There are lots of issues. Give back to states. We got to be smarter about how to, lead our country to be prosperous again. We are weak today. The world is laughing at us. China is laughing at us right now because China, she has a China dream. By 2049, he thinks China will be the number one dominance power in the world. I don't want subject to Communist Party rule, but they have some kind of policies to achieve that goal. And one of them, in a way, is the United States of America. But we are having all this, really, just like stupid, incompetent, policies. It's going to destroy our economy. When we destroy U.S. economy, think about who is going to be the number one in the world, and who is going to have more say about our lives here, our economy, our business. It's China. So how come they're talking about Russia every day? Russia is $1.2 trillion economy, and China is $18 trillion. I think Russia might be 1.8 trillion. But we're not talking about more important stuff going on today. Instead, we're focused on work, ESG, vaccine mandate, and pandemic is coming here again, and all the other issues that get people to fight each other and be divided. We need to understand what kind of life, what kind of country we're going to live under pretty soon. If we don't change the course, I hope people will turn out to vote, and vote for the people you trust, and don't just buy into the mainstream media rhetorics and the talking points, because I frankly don't trust lots of mainstream media either. So I hope people will get out of their box to look into alternative media, like your show is one of them. I will trust you to tell the truth. So I'm telling lots of Chinese Americans to stop watching CCTV. That's China's propaganda in the United States. You live in a free country, you watch China's CCTV. Wonder why this Chinese man will go to Taiwanese church to shoot a whole bunch of people because he's patriotic for China. It's such a tragedy. It's a human sorrow, really. How come you cannot wake up, even though you live here?
So how do people find you?
I need people to also follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even the YouTube, and both Chinese and English. I'm everywhere. As I said, I have been active for many years. I have been consistent. Some people are trying to discredit me and attack me. All they have to do is just Google Lily Tang Williams to see what I said, what I have done in the past 8 years, consistent. And we can still disagree on individual policy issue, solution issue, but I'm always open to have conversations with voters, and we need to have conversations. It doesn't matter if we 100%. I don't even agree with my husband 100%. I've been married for 32 years almost. So it's good to have some disagreement respectfully, but have civil conversations, bring to different ideas and listen to each other is so important for our country right now. So I promise positive, unifying campaign. And so welcome to check me out.
Okay, thank you. It's good catching up again.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Matt. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that show, make sure that you like and subscribe. Click the little bell so that you get notifications. And if you consume this via podcast, go wherever you want to go. We're everywhere. Kibbe on Liberty. The revolution starts now.